Welcome to Connect the Plots with Cylia Erik, a podcast about the stories that connect us.
3, 2, 1, and we're live. I'm Eric Grove, and I'm a writer. This is my friend Cylia, and she is a reader. And today we are plotting after our discussion with John Wiswell from our last week's episode. How you doing today, Sil?
I am here, and I'm cogent. And my voice is parsable, which is good because I've been sick this week. So if I sound weird to everyone, blame a weird summer flu virus. I feel better than I have since Monday. So we're going to get through it and it's going to be fine. But if I sound weird or gravelly, or you hear the cough drop echo in the mic, you just pretend it's not there.
Yeah, and if I happen to apply a vocal filter over the top of this recording that makes you sound like a munchkin, that's just the summer cold. That's not me being like emulating the Chaos Goblin.
Oh, speaking of Chaos Goblin, can you please go back to our Peace Accord? Because I blame this virus on it, and your bathroom literally exploded.
It's true. I do think if you've not listened to our discussion episode discussing the recording difficulties that we had with CL Polk, I think we did, in fact, anger like a particular kind of technological gremlin. And I think by making fun of them and maybe naming the episode after it, it did not help.
But then you doubled down in our text message.
Yes, I did. That is also true. That is also true. I continue to taunt the Chaos Goblin in the text message thread. Yes, and as Sil pointed out, the way that I have paid for this, shortly after getting home from weeks of travel that I did over the course of the month of June, my wife was like, maybe you should take a look at this discolored stain on the ceiling of our downstairs bathroom. And that discolored stain immediately led to me poking the ceiling and having water and ceiling come out, which is not what you want to have happen in your bathroom ceiling. And then that resulted in weeks of plumbing, drywall patches, toilet installations, that also culminated in the toilet exploding on me. Not like the tank, the back of the toilet. That just shattered and water everywhere. So we're sorry, Chaos Goblin, for both on behalf of both the podcast and myself. I will no longer make jokes about you. Probably still going to make Chaos Goblin jokes.
Stop it right now. Chaos Goblin, please listen. Eric does not represent the podcast in his joke statements about you. I do believe that you're there, and I need you to know I will enforce the peace accord.
But everything went really well when we recorded our episode with John, so we didn't.
Why are you saying that out loud right now? How dare you? We're going to have a discussion after this.
I will say, I will go on record as saying that it was not we're never going to rank our interviews or our guests, right? But on a personal, Eric delight level, there were so many high points for me having John join us and having a chance.
I was shocked at how long it was when you told me it was an hour and 48 minutes. I'm like, how is that possible? Because I was ready to keep talking.
It ended up being both the longest and largest by file size episode that we've recorded, which did create some small technical problems.
I'm sure the Chaos Goblin had nothing to do with.
Nothing at all. But I mean, I think it shows both that John was remarkably tolerant of our shenanigans, but that all three of us, I think, had a really good time. I had a blast. That was, there are every single one of our guests. I could talk to them longer than we ever allot. We're usually pretty mindful about people's time. And so while I might want to talk to Fonda Lee for 2.5, 3 hours about books and stuff, I think in Fonda's case, she had other stuff to do.
She was action packed.
Yeah. So the same thing with John. Like I at one point I think I like looked at the clock and I was like, we got to let John go some point.
One of the things that I think he embraced our annual plotting.
Yeah.
For season 1, and like kind of started interviewing us.
Yeah.
Which extended, but also was like really lovely, and I just really enjoyed every part of the conversation.
It was so much fun, and I think the joy of doing the show is that you interview people that are very different from you, and you learn to you learn more about them and you learn more about yourself. John and I are quite different, but there are some key ways in which I feel like we could just talk and enjoy that conversation. So I mean for sure, like those people that are listening to us on the pod or are watching this video on YouTube, like there's a fairly regular amount of back and forth chatter between John and a lot of people on social media, and I am one of those people. So, and you could kind of, I think what's striking about John is that John is exactly as genuine and lovely to interact with as he comes across in every single scenario. And that's like, I review his books very highly because I think the books are amazing, but I review him as a person just twice as high, just because he's just such a wonderful person to hang out with, and chat with, which again, I think you see it, like you see, if you watch our video, you'll see all of us just smiling the whole time, having a good time. You'll hear it in our voices in the recording. And the conversation was pretty organic. I mean, we've reached a point now where, so John was our 8th interview. Am I, fact check me? Is he our...
Yes. I mean, 13th episode.
Oh, so maybe the 7th. Maybe the 7th interview?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay,
Yeah, 7.
so John is actually the first of like the back half of our season 1, right?
We're on the downslope.
By this point, no, we are not. It's all uphill from here. Oh, wait, no, not all up here. It's all going to get better from here, Chaos Goblin. But no, so John is the first, of the second half of our season, and I think that you can see we've gotten comfortable enough in the process that while there are prepared questions that you send, like I think that, did we even hit anything more than like the key questions, like the main questions that we normally send out?
We often, just through the natural conversation, which is purposeful, end up hitting those as part of it, right? So, like something like heads up to the audience. One of the questions is like, what is this book in conversation with, right? Yeah. And so he was able to bring that up.
Yeah,
right?
he just organically brings it up.
That's the whole point. Like the reason I usually start with the book DNA is it is the core premise of like, what are the stories that are creating you, and what are the stories that are creating your stories? Like fundamentally, this all came about because it's a conversation that I have anyway with folks, because I'm genuinely interested in the stories that make up people, because I fundamentally think that stories are what make humans humans. Yeah. They're what make humans persons, rather, right? Because I'm leaving the door open to aliens also being
or
persons.
Dragons, yeah. Dragons count. And I think that particular question is a really helpful one to provide people up front and give them time to think about it, so that they're not like that one book by that one person, they have an opportunity to check their sources for the most part. Like it does naturally happen as we're going through in our conversation to be like, oh, there was this great book that I read, and people that are listening on the pod, this is real life, folks. You'll hear occasional
clicking
of
non-authors
keys.
coming up. right? So they may not have a book to have a story and conversation with.
Yeah.
And that's on purpose because we want many types of story-related people.
Yeah. John is also, at this point, the last guest that had a release that we were specifically trying to release an episode around.
Correct.
Well, there is one other guest that's going to be promoting work, but we're not going to talk about that particular surprise right now. So that also changes the vibe just a little bit, because it means that for the some of the upcoming episodes, we actually get to go a little bit farther out. Like, we get to kind of branch out a little bit more, and talk about more. We get to get deeper in some ways, and because we're not as worried about spending time on a particular release. Which I think is interesting, and I hope that our audience is also excited about that.
I just really want to know what people love.
Yeah.
That's what I'm in it for, guys. That's my key performance indicator. My KPI is getting to have the conversation and adding to my to be read pile.
So let's see. We usually do show talk, and so. Like meta show talk.
Are you
remembering?
Keeping us on track?
Yeah, I'm remembering, and I'm keeping us on track. I have also been trained. I just one of the peculiar things that we come back to over and over again, and people are probably tired of hearing it, is the way that we record this show. It's not every Tuesday night we record an episode. It's we record, in the case of John's episode, we recorded that weeks before that episode got aired, and some of our next episodes we recorded even before John. So we're going to hit a point where there are people that have episodes coming out that we have interviewed months before the episode airs, just because of the way that the schedule gets oriented. But also, as a side effect of that, these conversational episodes also tend to get clustered, because that's just the way your schedule and my schedule works, Cylia. So it's actually been, I was just looking at this, it's been almost exactly a month. I think it's in fact been like 28 days since our last plotting episode recording. And so, like, it has been, even though it's only been 2 weeks since the last one was released, the last episode we recorded that was one of these duo episodes was a month ago.
I'm feeling worse about my read completed list now. What?
You're telling me, right? But like in that month, that we have not been recording, I think if I remember correctly, like timing wise, when we recorded the last episode, I had just gotten back from StokerCon from Pittsburgh, and I think that was the weekend that, like, I was working on a bunch of publishing stuff, and I think, like, I'd managed to carve out, like, a few hours for the recording, like, kind of in the middle.
And then I had another convention to go to.
Yeah, then I had another convention, so I went to 4th Street Fantasy the following weekend. So and then I had plumbing emergencies, and we had chaos goblinry and editing of episodes. So I would say that the month of June for us was a very busy month that almost entirely did not get recorded. As it turns out, like, almost all of the stuff that was keeping us busy happened outside of microphones and cameras.
Life.
Yeah, It was outside. It was, but I mean, that's the nature of this. By a similar token, our May was by virtue of scheduling. Like, we were recording sometimes 2 interviews a weekend for multiple weekends in a row in order to get stuff together, because we knew that June was going. I knew what my deadlines were, and I knew what my travel schedule was. So when we had a chat, I think in April, we were like, Cylia, it's going to get hairy for a while there. And I think we've talked about that, like, when we were getting up to having a break. But we've now had a break, and I think that, I wonder, and only people who are listening to this week by week will be able to tell us if there is any difference in the way that we sound in this episode than we did a month ago, or like 2 weeks / a month ago in our last
Aside
our
from
last
our
chat.
chipmunk voice.
Aside from
My
the
chipmunk
vocal
voice.
filter, yeah. I like to think that I am much more relaxed because I am through the gauntlet of what I had going on in June, and July is my easy month. You know, I just get to relax, record
Why would
some
you
of these.
say that out loud?
What are the rules when it comes to the Chaos Goblin? Am I not supposed to be happy? Is that what the Chaos Goblin
You
wants?
barely gave an apology, and now you keep saying this is like the rule in Labyrinth or other movies where you don't say this is a piece of cake. You never
Okay,
say it's
okay.
going well. You do not tempt the
Gotcha.
Chaos Goblin or the various Fatae. Like you may say, "I'm going to do my best."
So I shouldn't just
I
say
am
like I'll be right
prepared.
back because that's how
Yes.
I'm going to get
Correct.
killed in this. Like, gotcha.
Let's split up the gang and meet up later. No, absolutely not. There
So
are
this-
certain tropes
Yeah.
that you do not tempt because they will whip ricochet into your face.
So the month of July will be a lot of offerings to the Chaos Goblin.
Correct.
Just a lot of respecting of the Chaos Goblin.
Yeah,
And,
but what if you just open your door one day and I'm there with a whole altar set up? We're taking care of this.
I because I feel like if I talk more about this, I'm only going to make it worse. I'm going to just be like, and just nod
Move
from
right
now
along.
on. Like, just from now, 'cause my natural inclination, like, just so our listeners understand, my natural inclination is like, there's a voice in the back of my head that's like, make a joke about it. And that voice maybe is also the Chaos Goblin. It may in fact be that I am the Chaos Goblin and have been the Chaos Goblin all along. You've seen Fight Club.
You would
This
have
is
gotten
my
away
version
with
of
it
that.
too. It wasn't for
Yeah.
that pesky co-host.
This is my version of Fight Club, which is that, you know, there's Eric Grove and then there's the Chaos
I like
Goblin.
you went to Polynux Fight Club and I went to Scooby and the gang.
Yeah. Also a very clear distinction as to who we are as people.
Okay, hard left into. I posted on my Book Barker Instagram
Yeah.
a professional interaction on chat
Okay.
in which you refused to give me an easy way to compare rather your reading list against mine, and you told me before the show today why that is. What is your tracking method for how many books you've read per year?
So, okay, first of all, I reject the premise because like I didn't refuse, I just made a joke, which again, I think, you know, like that wasn't
Did you
me
answer
that
the question though in the chat thread?
I think I most yes I did, but it was
No, you didn't. There was no number shared.
okay, that's true. So I am a very organized, disorganized person. I think I've established this. No, I mean, it's true, right? Like, I think people...
I've seen your note cards, yes.
Okay, but what I think people may not appreciate is that like I am like in my day job I'm like managing, you know, like websites and databases and incredibly technically complicated stuff. You know, I'm editing these episodes, I'm putting all this stuff together, I'm extremely meticulous, I'm extremely detail oriented. But then there are just certain aspects of my life where I'm like I can save processing power by not doing that. For like reminder notes, honestly, like you'll occasionally see people who are like they've just got like a little piece of string tied around their finger. My note system is very similar to the string around your finger system. It's not that the string is telling you anything other than look at the string wants you to remember something, and then that triggers the memory. That's how my note card system works. My note card system is I look at something that I've scrawled, I go, what could I possibly have scrawled? And then I remember, and then I have that information in my head. It's also the same way that I track my books, which is that I do have a method of tracking my books. It's a Google spreadsheet. But one, you know, like all of us, I don't always get to update it as quickly as I'd like. So I have to like look at things and get it updated every couple of few weeks. And also, they're notes for me. So when you look at my Google list, sometimes most of the time they're just titles of the books. I'm almost never listing the title and the author. The reason that I'm reluctant to do anything on Goodreads or any of those other platforms is because then I have to log in, and then I have to look it up, and then I have to put in a number or something. It's easier for me to just write it down on my spreadsheet. It's not a question of because the purpose of it is not for me to. Let me put it this way. Let me do it a 3-point turn on this. I don't like competing about how many books that we're reading. I know that you want to win, and I, in fact, want you to win.
I believe you did say when you noticed that I had read more books than you, although I don't know what the numbers are, you did say all is right in the world.
Yes, because you should be reading more books than me. That's the way it should work. That's why, that was part of the contract. And we both broke that contract kind of by accident, which is that you read slightly less, maybe more. I don't know where you're at now, but you read less than you normally would year to date, and I read much more than I would year to date. So we both violated the contract on that one. But I don't want to be. I want to tease you about it. I want to give you a hard time because we're friends, and that's how I express affection to my friends, is by teasing them. Mostly because it's you can kind of get your friend's blood up, and get them to kind of. I know exactly what to say. And I won't, but I know exactly what to say to get you to go to get your hackles up. And every once in a long time, the Chaos Goblin wants me to do that because it's funny. But I don't actively want to be reading more books. So I'm part of the other reason that I don't put this stuff, I think, on Goodreads is because I really don't want to be competitive. It's come up in this podcast, but generally speaking, when I'm talking to my other friends, one of two things is going on. Either I've read way more books than they have, or I've read way fewer books than they have. And for whatever reason, it's always one of those extremes. And either one feels weird, and I don't like it. So I'll talk about books that I'm reading, but I don't like to. I'm less excited about talking about the numbers. But you want a number, don't you?
I ask you a third time.
So
as the Fae.
Yeah, that is a deal.
Commands is the third question.
I am at 41 completed books for the year.
All is right with the world.
Yeah. So you're what? Have you crossed 50?
Yeah, 51.
There you go. See, that's order is restored. Maybe now the Chaos Goblin can be appeased.
Thank you.
So maybe that's what it was the whole time, Cylia. It was just
really trying to get us back on track. See?
Just get the contract. And having said that, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about the books that we've read, I've had a bear of a time reading the last month because of my
why? Because you were traveling and also editing and also repairing a water explosion?
Yes, those reasons. Those are the reasons.
See? Chaos Goblin helped.
Indeed. Let me slow down so that you could lap me.
Okay. I'm ready to talk about books.
The books that you've finished? Okay. Let's hear it.
Mm-hmm. So I read a couple more. I think technically they were not Hugo nominees. They were not the Hugo nominees on the list, so they're part of the award ceremony at Worldcon. But there are 2 awards, one for YA and one for Best Debut Author. That
The Astounding.
The Astounding and the... Oh my gosh, my brain is totally blanking. It's not the North Star, but it's the... I'm so good at this, you guys.
I mean, you are presumably on lots of cough medicine right now.
Sadly, I cannot even use that as an excuse. The Astounding and the Lodestar.
Gotcha. Lodestar.
The Lodestar
I think
is
I
for
remembered
best
that
YA
somewhere.
book. And the Astounding is for Best New Writer, and writers who are nominated for the Astounding are eligible for their first 2 years of having released a book or eligible work.
Yeah.
So, the reason I'm saying that is because it's in part my prep for the August 8th deadline for voting for the Hugos and Not a Hugo ballot. So I read Cinder House, and which is up for the Lodestar, and Green Teeth, which is up for the Astounding.
I don't think, now that I think about it, I think I haven't given the Astounding Award enough of my attention. Like, I've read all of the books, but I've not dug into the Astounding Award. Now, the Astounding Award is specifically nominating an individual rather than a work. Is that how that?
Yes, correct.
How that does?
Yeah, so they have to have at least one eligible work in the first 2 years of their publication debut. And then it may be more than one, right? But it's the person, not the work itself. And then all the others are the work itself. The other one I read was Among Ghosts, which was lovely. I've read Seraphina and the other books in that series. And that was delightful. I read The Will of the Many by, I think it's James Islington, which actually someone from work recommended to me. And for me, it was a little slow going, and then once it hit its paces, I got super sucked in and immediately got the second book. I didn't even want to wait for it on the library, so I just bought it. But in between The Will of the Many and the sequel, The Strength of the Few, I read Wearing the Lion because we interviewed, had the interview with John, and I just needed something cozy. And instead I got trauma, but also found family and cozy.
I love that book. I think, man, again, like it's
the Auntie Hera. I couldn't.
Yeah. For me, I can't rate the books in terms of like what's better or worse, because I think they're all fantastic. All of John's books are fantastic. But Wearing the Lion had a personal resonance for me that I found continues to sort of as I stammer. It was very touching to me on a personal level. I thought it was a remarkable exploration of positive masculinity, and a very compelling exploration of trauma in ways that I think that that book like really resonated with me and just had such a profound place in my heart. Because there are so few books that are holding up an ideal of it's funny, right? Because Heracles is a classic Greek hero, but what I think John is doing in that book, and maybe John would disagree with me, I don't know. We didn't ask him about Wearing a Lion as much, but what I think John is doing in that book is he is providing a template for a kind of ironically modern, even though he's going back to a classical hero, but he's providing a template for a modern male hero where the virtues that Heracles has are not simply strength and courage, but there is a fierce empathy and open-heartedness to that character that felt so I love that book. I love that book, and I love Heracles, and I love that arc in it, and it is probably the closest for me to like an aspirational character that I have read, because most of the time you're reading books, and Heracles has bad things happen and does bad things in the course of the book. He's a complicated character, but like in terms of like pure aspiration, like if I had to pick a character to emulate, and I snapped my fingers and I had to become that character from any story or book that I read, I think I would probably pick Heracles from Wearing the Lion, because while he is not perfect, he is just the ideals that he manages to hold strong to throughout that whole book are ideals that are so deeply important to me that like I just find it just an absolutely aspirational hero. And this is, and I'm big on Superman and superheroes in general. Like that's why it was a particular joy for me to talk to John about comic books. But I think that he does a remarkable job of making Heracles more super than Superman, and some, I love that book, and I've talked about that book way more than you have. But it's a heart book for me. Like that's probably one of those books that I'd be hesitant to say is one of like my absolute favorite of all time, simply because it's so recent. It's only been out for like a year and a few months. I believe, folks, that the paperback edition of that is either just come out or will come out very shortly. So you can get the paperback edition. But because it's so recent, I'm like, is it just recency bias? But I have a sneaky suspicion, ask me in 5 years when I'm less neurotic about recency bias, I'm going to be like, no, that's one of the best books, like on a personal level, that I've ever read.
Yeah, I'm going to be hand recommending it to folks like my friend Sarah, where we bonded over the different mythos that we were obsessed with in high school. And yeah, I did get into Greek mythology, but really for me it was Egyptian, and for Sarah it is Greek. And so I'm positive she's going to pick up on a ton of stuff that I missed, because I definitely was like looking at like Wikipedia articles and being like, oh, I better like find my Greek myths book on the shelf and dust that off again, because I know I'm missing a ton of context that I could tell he was weaving in.
Yeah.
That is awesome. The Strength of the Few is relevant to that last piece, because I was getting a little lost in the sauce at first because of a thing that I can't say because it's a spoiler for book 1. But the thing that helped me figure it out is, so for those who end up reading it, this will not help the audiobook listeners. The head of every chapter has a little icon that helps indicate where the thing is happening. And there is, it never explicitly says this, but there's clearly like a Roman location, a Celtic location, and an Egyptian location. And as soon as I picked up on that, it helped parse out who's who and what's happening. And that really helped me figure out what was happening. And then I found out this is just the second. It came out in 2025. Apparently his normal release schedule is every 2 years-ish, and it's supposed to be a quad or a quintet. And I'm already like, no, I want the rest of them. I need to find out what happens. So that's nice. I think I'm going to get some nice copies of the hard copies, because I got the ebook, and I want to follow up and be all ready to go when that comes through. So that was all of my, over the past month, I only read 6. And then to do that, I did put on hold, but do want to return to A Pirate's Life for Tea, Bloodweaver, The Raven Scholar, which is also up for award, Coffee Shop in an Alternate Universe, also up for award. And I'm currently reading, both in my assigned books, but also up for an award, Death of the Author.
Nice.
By Nnedi Okorafor, which I'm less than a third of the way through the book. So we'll see where it lands. There's already, the structure of the book is clearly hinting at things that is giving me a lot of anxiety. So I'm like trying to like just persist and deal with the anxiety to get through to like where it's actually leading and not anticipate, and instead be very meditative and like live in the now and just read the actual story and not anticipate. And yeah, that's anxious of me.
I know I assigned that to you, and I gushed about it in a prior episode. So, like, if you want to hear me wax on about the death of the author, I think that's a couple of conversation episodes ago. Also, a book that I think in 5 years from now, when I do the whole audit for recency bias, might be in my favorites. I would say again that like the main character of that book is just really one of the most interesting and well-rounded main characters I've read in a long time. I really like her, and I think that yeah, it's a fucking great book, folks. It's a good book. They're good books. They're all good books. Not all, but they're all good books.
And then next is The River Has Roots.
Is that the Amal? Yep. Okay. I have that. I got that. I just haven't had a chance to dig into it. That's one of the novella finalists for the Hugos. I need to read that as well. That's definitely something.
I already had the book. I didn't even get it from the
yeah.
packet.
I have it. It's in one of my book piles.
So.
But I need to get to that one.
Okay, so before we get into assigned books, I'd love to hear what you're reading.
Yeah, so I did half as many books, it sounds like, in the last month than you have. And one of them, two of them, I think I've been working on while we were talking. So, like the last time, I think I mentioned that they were in progress. So that's not a lot of reading for pre-established reasons. But I finished So You Want to Be a Wizard, which was one of my assigned books. Which we will come back to that and talk about that. I also finished reading an advanced copy of Crone by Keith Rawson. Mm-hmm. And I also finished reading The Lathe of Heaven, which came up when we talked to John.
I assigned that to you.
Oh, did you actually assign that one to me as well? Mm-hmm. I know it came up in our conversation with John, and I think it's come up in like other stuff, but I don't remember when you assigned what. So... There are strings around my fingers, Celia. I don't need to actually know what they say.
I mean, we do have
a list,
a Patreon list that I keep up to date with all assigned books, and also you have access to my folder where I keep those show notes.
This is true. This is a true statement. I have no.
Oh no, I'm a liar. I did not formally assign it to you. That was extra credit. I did lend it to you.
Oh, yeah, no. Weirdly, you lent it to me, and I also, for some reason, apparently forgot that you did because I got it from the library. Or I put in a hold at the library, and it just came in. Actually, I'm holding up this book as a prop, but the irony is that I listened to it primarily on audiobook, and I got the copy because I actually want to go back and reread it. But I didn't remember that you had also loaned me the physical copy. I'm a very organized person, Celia.
Mm-hmm. Clearly, your cognitive prompt method, your memory palace cognitive prompts is working.
If the only wheels that fall off this bus are like where books are and where they came from, I'm doing pretty good, comparatively. But yeah, so on those, I will say The Lathe of Heaven was great. Like I went right through it. Like it was. It's one of those books that I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd read this 20 years ago.
First, like Haley Gwynn,
it holds up, and I think it's a great book. The premise of it, what I think distinguishes a good science fiction concept is how many layers deep it goes, and this book goes so many layers. Like there's a version of this story that would be a much more obvious one-note pony or one-trick pony. One note. It's like a pony in a marching band, I guess. But there's a version of this book. There's a version of this book that would be a one-trick pony, and this is not that. Le Guin keeps pushing deeper into the implications and all of the little things and the way that the subconscious works and the way that dreams work. It is a very dense story, which is surprising because it reads very light. Like, it just doesn't read like a dense story, but it presents dense concepts, which is one of the best kind of books, where you're like, oh, this is just a pretty, I'm engaged and interested in the characters and the plot and moving along, and then it's only like later on that you're tricked into realizing that there's some real deep philosophy that you've been tricked into thinking about, and that's what's going on with Lathe of Heaven. So you want to be a wizard?
Yeah.
So I also listened to that almost entirely by audiobook, which is also ironic because I know you gave me a physical copy. But the main reason that I did that is because that was my travel book. Like, that was the book that I was putting on in my audiobook headphones when I was on the planes for multiple trips, which it is a different mode when I'm on a plane. And it is a lot easier because I kept ending up on flights that were like overnight, and all of the people that are near you were like, if you turn on that light, I'm going to stab you. So if you have your headphones on, you can kind of listen to it and not disrupt the fellow plane passengers. I liked it a lot. What ultimately took it up, like multiple points for me, actually didn't happen until the end. Like, I think I found the book fine and good, and then it was at the very end, and I don't know.
Cute YA. What?
And it's interesting. It's interesting because I'm wondering if it's the same thing that like really resonated with me that resonated with you.
Can you use a keyword without it being a spoiler?
What I will say.
Wait till we stop recording.
Also, like, this is an older book. I think we can spoil it a little bit. Like, I'm not going to spoil it a lot. It has
been out for literal decades.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So,
spoiler warning for So You Want to Be a Wizard by Diane Duane. If you want to read this without a spoiler, you should skip forward a couple minutes.
And so what I will say about it is that there's a subplot that's introduced at the first part of the book about a bully. And the bully just being kind of a lousy bully. And what tied the book together in a perfect package for me was the way that the bully storyline connected to the main plot of the book. The way that the main character was able to, and I honestly, I'd have to look at notes in order to remember the character's name at this point. But the way that the main character managed to take the experience of the fun jaunty YA adventure, which it does get quite dark and serious and world shaking, but takes that experience and like converts it into her own personal life lesson on how to like connect with and interact with bullies, in the ways in which empathy kind of disarms that simple human cruelty, which doesn't necessarily spoil like the plot of the book, but it kind of does in the sense that it's a nice surprise, I guess, that the book manages to tie. It shouldn't be.
You're not taking as much as I love Neverending Story. You're not taking the bullies and bullying them back into a dumpster.
Correct. Yeah, there is a way that the way that the bully storyline is handled was remarkably mature for my expectation of the book. And that's maybe because I have maybe I should have had higher expectations. But that was the thing that, for me, like the bad guy and the world ending stakes. This is something about me, I guess, as a reader, is that I don't care if the world ends, but I really care about characters learning something about like that human element. Like, it's one thing, and I see this in a lot of stories, and I'm not I am not universal in this way. Plenty of readers are like, I just want to see CGI explosions, or the equivalent of that in a book. Like, I want to see huge battle scenes. That's what interests me. I care about those small character moments, and that is when that book paid off for me, was the small character moment at the end when I said, okay. And there are other great small character moments throughout the book that show like a real deft hand at dealing with like basically everything that involved not the wizard part of the book I liked more than the wizard part of the book, but the wizard part of the book is necessary for those parts. So
my favorite part about the book is the book series really is upfront and doesn't really culminate until A Wizard Abroad, which I want to say is the third or fourth in the series, is the Wizard's Oath up front. You kind of read it as like, oh, here's a little like thing I'm reading, and it's the portal into being a wizard, but I feel like it is the through line for the whole series, which is, I will fight with love in my heart against entropy and nihilism.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not all fight, grrr, it's I will strive to bring more light and life into this world, because there is this overwhelming darkness and nihilism that's trying to take it away.
Yeah.
And a thematic piece that I think I didn't connect until you just said this, is in part of that bully storyline, but I think is in every one of her books, is no one is irredeemable. There is always a path back to light and life.
Yeah.
And that, to me, like, we are the product of our choices. We choose who we are, and we can keep making those choices. That, to me, is really, that's the part that gets me. And it's not a one and done, and it's not a recycled template. Every story in the series is unique. And so for a YA, literally the Young Wizards series, it's a YA series, and it grapples with this really fundamental truth in ways that I think a lot of people cover or sidestep having to deal with big shiny explosions, and let's talk about how the faster than light travel works.
There were a few things that were surprising to me about the book from like a almost like a meta level, like from like a thinking about the book as a product of something that exists in the world and the audience and the intention. I found the parents to be really interesting. Like, and often parents in YA books are, like they're either dead and the character's an orphan, or they're, like evil, or they're just pointless and clueless. But the parents in this book I thought were great. Like, I thought they were like, I'm like, oh, I relate to these parents. Like, they're written in such a way that the parents are relatable, which is a fascinating choice, because I don't know how much children want to relate to their parents. But I think that was I do like they felt like real people. They feel like real parents with kids. Same thing for like the siblings. The sibling in the book, like, they all felt real, and that was striking. And I think it's striking mostly in contrast with some of the other YA books, the behemoth YA books that need not necessarily be name dropped for various reasons, but where those books just sort of, the way that they handle family is in that much more predictable like way, and I like the family. I just
think it's more binary, right? That people get sorted into tropes, and then that's the kind of person you are, and then you never have to interrogate it, right? Rather than being fully fleshed out persons. And this was much more sophisticated than that. I was also surprised that there was a real strong lack of parental supervision. I think that, or like not a parental, but like adult supervision, I guess. Mm-hmm. So these were very much latchkey wizards.
Like these were
Correct.
these were like parents are still at work and we've got a couple hours before we have to get to before they come home, where we're left to free range and do whatever we want. So it does feel more modern, I think, than most of the books that I was reading at that time period that this came out.
So the first, having grown up in my grade school years in the 80s, I was born in the 70s. This was written in 1982 initially. There was a millennials version that was republished later. Written in 82 and published the next year in 83. So I think I was a latchkey kid.
Yeah,
so like
insane.
It
but
made sense
there
to
were
me.
there weren't necessarily quite as many books that were doing that. I would say that like this seemed more in line with Beverly Cleary. Am I saying that right? Why am I suddenly doubting?
That is an author's name who writes middle grade books. Yes.
Yeah. Right, but those books I think were, and I've read them, but it's been forever. Those books were
like Ramona Quimby and
those books were much more realistic about the way that they portrayed like children's lives and their parents' lives, and felt much more modern than a lot of the YA books that I've since become familiar with. And this feels more like that plus
wizardry,
rather than like it felt like it started with character and real life, and then added on, and I appreciated that about it. So it was a good book. Thank you for the
I'm so glad you
assignment.
liked it. Yay. Well, I know you have a lot on your list, so you are unlikely to dive straight into the rest of the books. However, for anyone listening, it is one of many books in the series. I do recommend all of them. When I'm having a tough time, I periodically go back and read them all over again and just wrap myself up in light and life and choosing to do good over and over again.
And I do have to just kind of quickly throw out Crone by Keith Rawson is an awesome book. I'm going to write like a review for it because I did get an advanced reading copy. It is sort of my crack. I think we even made a joke about this in the last episode when we were talking about like there are some of the choices that Rawson is making that sort of make it very specifically targeted towards me as a demographic. It did not disappoint. Like I don't want to just let that one pass and be like, yeah, it's a book that I read. No, it's great. It's a great book. It's a great book.
So you got 3 bangers.
3 bangers, yeah. 3 good books. 3 very strong books. What I am going through now, I'm currently reading The October Film Haunt by Michael Wehunt. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. This book won an award at the Stokers. It's StokerCon for I think it was like their equivalent of like I forget the award. Honestly, we're gonna pretend that I did not forget that. We're all gonna pretend that, and just
I'll
everybody
just put it in the
Google
book
that.
notes. No one will know.
So I'm reading that. I'm also sort of just becoming familiar with the author because I hear great things. It's a horror novel. It's kind of a meta horror. Well, not a meta. It's sort of a little bit meta. Like the main premise is that there are these characters that the main characters were. They had an organization called the October. They did a thing called the October Film Haunt, where they would go to locations where horror films were shot, and they would sort of like interact with them. And they kind of did it. It sounds like they were in the early, not early because the internet's now been around for forever, but like middle era of social media stuff, like the 2010s, 2015 era, where things could just sort of go viral and it wouldn't necessarily be evil. In the same way that it seems to be now, or is corporatized. And then something terrible has happened in relationship to their last film haunt, which I haven't gotten far enough into the book to know exactly what the parameters are of that. And the main character is now receiving creepy videotapes that are a callback to a creepy horror movie that they were covering. And it starts to blur that line between fandom and creation, and it's a scary book. So it's probably going to firmly land on the not for Cylia list. Because there are some
I'll just
already
proactively put it there. We can move it if needed, but probably.
Already, and I'm only, like 50 pages in, already it's got some like real nice creepy imagery. So yeah, there's some real creepy stuff going on in there that I could see giving people some night terrors.
Speaking of creepy movies, I forgot to ask this the last time we had a plotting episode. Question from my spouse, because I think this is going to fall into the Cylia, stop lying to yourself.
Sure.
Would you consider the movie Pan's Labyrinth to be horror?
I do think that lands into that like fantasy fairy tale horror element. Well, let me put it this way. I think Guillermo del Toro is a horror director, and he brings a horror sensibility to a fairy tale story. It is also
I loved Pan's Labyrinth. I also thought there were aspects like the hands that were super, super creepy, and I just put it into the mental category of dark fantasy in my brain, and I'm realizing I need to reevaluate that category, as it's probably a near perfect Venn diagram with horror.
Well, you look at a publication like Nightmare Magazine, and Nightmare Magazine specifically, like on their masthead, it's horror and dark fantasy, because those two things start to drift together very carefully and closely. And I think Wendy talked about this way back when we interviewed her, that sometimes what makes something horror is not even obvious to the people that are writing the horror. Like the horror just depends. But I would say, if I was in a video store and we had like defined sections, I would probably put that in the horror section, mostly because there aren't nearly as many movies in the fantasy section, just by virtue of things. But I think it's horror friendly. I think if you watched Pan's Labyrinth and you liked it, that gives more credence for my argument that there are aspects of horror that are going to resonate with you.
Yes, I did like it. It is one of the movies I like. Also, I like Guillermo del Toro's, oh my gosh, my brain is blanking, Hellboy.
Yep, Hellboy is great.
Hellboy movie that Guillermo took on.
He did both the first two.
Oh, yeah, did he? Okay. Yeah.
He did, and I love his style. I think he's a fantastic director. Visually, is a phenomenal visionary. Great guy.
Sorry, I derailed you. It was just
it was a good
check in.
Again, like I'm jumping tracks all the time. If you do it once in a while, it just makes me look better. The other book that I am actively consuming at the moment is on audiobook, but I'm going to do my thing where I get the physical book and probably bounce back and forth as soon as it shows up at the library. Is You Weren't Meant to Be Human, which is another horror book. And it was one that Mary Berman recommended from our Mary Berman episode, which is actually sort of like, I kind of love that we are now far enough into this podcast that we are being able to read books that we've assigned each other. We're being able to read books that were that our guests recommended. We're like, in the beginning of it, it was like, oh, that's interesting, that's novel, but we hadn't quite gotten there. Now, like, most of my reading list is based, like, a lot of my reading list is based. I have other books coming in that are in my next to read that are actually based on like the conversations with Mary and Wendy. So, like, a lot of my future reading list is the Not for Cylia list, which is You Weren't Meant to Be Human is very much in that vein.
I believe Mary specifically said that.
Yeah,
that's how we coined Not for Cylia.
And it's like I'm about 20% of the way into that book on audiobook, and the audiobook production's great. So I'm not going to be mad if I end up predominantly consuming that one on audiobook. But I would prefer to be able to go back and forth. And it's just I think that one is one I don't really want to spoil with any of the concepts, but the actual like line work, the actual like writing, and the clarity of storytelling is just absolute fire. Like, it's just
you've mentioned that in
fantastic.
A previous episode. You're like, look at the structure on that sentence.
No, it's great. Like, it is some beautiful prose work. Yeah. So those are the two that I am currently reading, kind of back and forth.
And what's up next?
What's up next I've got this book from the library, which is a nonfiction book, which I am kind of going through simultaneously. This is a book of essays from horror writers about why they love horror.
Cute.
It's called Why I Love Horror, edited by Becky Siegel Spratford. At least one of these essays has won an award. I believe the essay from this book by Tananarive won a Stoker Award. But it's full of authors. A lot of the ones that we've even talked about, and what their approach to horror is. I'll call out Stephen Graham Jones, one of my favorites. Josh Mallerman, which I read based on one of Wendy's recommendations. A few weeks ago, I read some Josh Mallerman, there's a whole bunch of people here. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but Tananarive is obviously must read. So that's what I'm currently reading. So I'm getting into my brief nonfiction era. One of the funny things that came up, and it's become kind of a goal for me to be aware of, when I was at 4th Street Fantasy, I moderated a panel on how to kind of improve your reading and to enjoy reading more and to read more diverse types of work than you normally read. And I recognized that one of my blocked areas is nonfiction. I don't like reading nonfiction because it gives me flashbacks to college experiences that I did not enjoy. So I have decided that I need to confront that. It also gives me like that. When you're a writer and you sometimes do research, there is an inclination to go down like a research rabbit hole, and I'm so cautious about going down a research rabbit hole that I research probably less than I need to, or I do it in such a controlled fashion. Like, rather than like do all of my research up front, I like parcel it out, because I'm just like, as if the research is a black hole that's going to pull me in. So I'm very hesitant to do that.
Watch out for that event horizon.
Yeah, so I'm trying to read more nonfiction, and I figured I would start with Why I Love Horror, which was recommended to me. Shout out to the Nebula Awards producer, Rebecca Postapak, Rebecca, I'm sorry, I probably just said your last name incorrectly, but Rebecca specifically recommended it because Tananarive was the Toastmaster for the Nebula ceremony this year. So I think that they read, several of the Nebula ceremony people were reading Tananarive's work and suggested it. So Rebecca recommended this one in particular, I think right before it started winning a bunch of awards. So I was like, gonna make that happen.
Prescient, yes.
Yeah. So that's what I am kind of actively reading back and forth on. And then up next after that, I have Bunny by Mona. This is the problem with having to pronounce names when you're not always sure how they're pronounced. I think it's Awad.
I'll find it, and people can
Awad.
find.
I don't know. I'm not sure. It's Awad. Mona Awad is the last name, and I don't know how to pronounce it. I should have looked it up. I failed at name pronunciation lookup. Yeah, so that's the next fiction book. I think I even mentioned this to you in one of our non-show text message threads, returning to my comfort place for books, which is I'm diving into horror to make myself feel better after a difficult month. So horror is my happy place for the time being.
Yeah, we have different comfort reading. That is for sure.
It is weird that I'm like, oh, this is a fucked up body horror book. I gotta settle in and relax. But that is the way I do it. With that said, I'm gonna pivot straight from there. I'm gonna kind of steal the script because the book I am going to assign to you is the same book I'm reading.
Oh
so
my
we'll
gosh.
actually read the same book.
Plot twist.
Yeah, and I wanted to do that pivot.
Say it out loud for the listeners.
Why I Love Horror. So it's the nonfiction book, because I think this will give us a shared vocabulary and concept to talk about. One of the reasons that I was interested in reading this book is because I'm like, it's almost like, people get parenting books, like how to understand the mind of your child, and I'm like, how do I communicate with people that think that they don't like horror? Will this self-help book help me? I don't know that was the intention.
Help me convince my partner.
What I think you will really appreciate about this book, because it's written by a librarian, like the editing is by a librarian, and every essay has like a preface or a pro. That's a preface. It's a preface, like an introduction by the librarian, and every single one of them ends with readers new to this author should start with, and then names the book, and then for those that want to try a similar author, they suggest another author. So
Perfect.
this is speaking your language.
It
so
is.
I think as you go through here, if you read one of these essays, because there is a cross section of horror authors that are above and beyond even the ones that I've read. So if you read this and you read an essay and something about that essay makes you go like, oh, I want to read this author, you're given some guidance on where to start. So I think that that's useful, and hopefully it will help us communicate. Cylia, I love horror.
I look forward to ingesting the information in order to better understand future recommendations.
Maybe you read it and you're like, I don't love horror, and it helps crystallize that for you. But
I will say, I think a lot of times I appreciate the structure and the skill in ones that I have not, liked, quote unquote liked. It's not that they're not good. So that's the key thing. It's like, I think the genre is great and it has a place in the world very clearly, right? And I'm not always the target audience for things. And also that's okay. And I think one of the things, but it's really important for me to be self-aware.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've been appreciating about it is not just like testing my growth edge, right? Which I do want to. I want to grow and develop as a person. And so test that growth edge of like, what can I read and get into? But also, if I already like things that are horror, I want to be aware of that and not just mindlessly bucket things and write them off. Like, I'm okay not liking things. I also want to be self-aware and not write things off that I may otherwise really like.
Oh, and I made a note to myself, which I looked down and I now remember. There is a book that I had to temporarily put on hold because library holds came in, but it's something I'm still working on, which is The Language of Liars. Is that the full title? Gosh. The Language of... Oh, yeah, it is. The Language of Liars by S.L. Huang, which is something that came up when we were talking to John. So I'm working on that one, but I had to put it on hold while some of the library books came in. But I got far enough into it to be like, this is great, but I have not finished it. But inspired by you talking about books that you've put on hold, I wanted to mention that one.
Are you ready for my assignment?
I am.
So one may think that I would recommend Canticle for Leibowitz because in the episode with John, he made a very compelling argument that you should read it. In fact, I think that argument was so compelling that I'm going to let that be his book recommendation to you instead of mine, because I think it's very clear that it is Erik bait and you will be reading it regardless. Okay. Instead, I'm going to recommend something in the anthropologic science fiction section that we discussed. In part because I feel like every time I've brought this author up, not a lot of people seem to know her. And that could just be the circles I'm running in. But I really love Julie E. Czerneda.
Okay.
And I have a hard copy here that I will lend you if you remember that you have it.
I remember
which is
everything.
1,000 Words for Stranger.
Okay.
Which is the first book in her Trade Pact universe. And I really like this series, and I I can't tell you why, because it'll be spoilery, aside from its anthropologic science fiction.
Awesome. I'll have to make sure to not forget that book. The thing is,
In fact,
that
it's making me want to reread it before you read it. So before we do the handoff, maybe I'll reread it, and then when we exchange the book bag. Since, no, you haven't read all of them yet, because you still haven't read C.S. Friedman's.
Correct. That's on my
Rex and
list still.
Racing. Yep.
Yep. All right.
We did it, Eric.
Well, I want to talk about our next guest that's going to be on the pod, right? Because we can discuss this. Our next guest is a bit of an interesting departure in two key ways. One,
we've been seeding this, though, this whole season.
Yeah. So the guest is Gary Bennett, and Gary has a direct connection to the origin story of the show that we talk about in our interview. Gary is an audiobook narrator, which is new for us. We haven't had an audiobook narrator on before, so we get to talk to somebody who's approaching story from a very different angle. So I'm excited about that. Say I'm excited about it as if I don't already know that it was a great interview. We already had a great time talking to Gary. It happened already, folks. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert, it went well. The other thing that's I think is interesting about Gary, which I think maybe excited me a lot, was Gary doesn't read quite as much science fiction and fantasy as you and I do. So we were able to talk to Gary about some thrillers and other types of books that Gary is into. And I think just Gary's experience as a reader and his experience in story is just coming at it from a really different angle. So we have something, to quote Monty Python, and now for something completely different is coming up next week. So that episode will be airing the week after this discussion episode.
It'll come out on the
21st of July. Yeah, and then because I think we need to be hyping our guests a little bit more. Coming up after Gary, we have another guest that's approaching story from a different angle that I'm very excited to share our interview. Again, spoiler alert, it already happened. It went well. It was another one of those conversations that we just could have kept having for hours and hours and hours. I have not edited the episode, so it may in fact be longer than the John episode. I'm not sure. But that guest is Misha Stone, and Misha is a librarian specifically in the remind me of the term that Misha used. Was it like recommendation librarian? That's not right.
No, it's not recommendation, but it is along that vein. Now you're quizzing me and my brain is blinking. Reader's advisory.
Yes. Okay. So Misha is a reader's advisory librarian. And also just, again, just one of those people. Like, Misha's another person that I could just hang out with and talk to forever. Again, all of these folks. This season we have been very lucky in being able to have, like, every guest that we've had, there would be zero doubt in my mind about whether or not I would want to meet up with them for dinner. Like, that is maybe like a particular threat, distinction. Misha, absolutely. I've had dinner with Misha. Would do again. Misha's great. Misha's amazing. That is going to come up. It's going to, we're going to have Gary Bennett on. We're going to discuss the episode with Gary. So Misha's episode doesn't air until August, and that will be airing on August 4th. And our final guest that I think that we can talk about up front.
Everyone else is behind the curtains. You cannot yet talk about them.
But our final guest that we are ready to discuss and put the date on, and I have such this one will maybe have the longest gap between when we actually recorded the episode and when it airs.
You're right.
Yeah, and it's just the way it worked out. I swear. In fact, I think my argument was to try to air this episode earlier, but we had book releases to coordinate.
He's our ace in the hole.
He's our ace in our hole, both because he's a friend, and we're pretty confident that he would agree to be on the podcast. But critically,
right, I mean, like slotted in where we needed him.
Yeah, it was very flexible, and I appreciated that. Is Curtis C. Chen, who we've referenced many times on this show because he
friend
plays
of the
such
pod, literally
literally a friend of the pod, but also kind of deeply enmeshed in the origin story of the pod. Like very much Curtis Chen is how I met and started directly met Cylia, and is also how I met and started interacting with a lot of the writing community that I now consider to be so central to my professional and personal life. So that is an amazing, like, I kind of want, like, if scheduling logistics had worked out better, like, that is honestly, like, so foundational to the show and so foundational to us as a person.
The red string imagery.
Yeah.
There are quite a lot of red strings that culminate and wrap around the Curtis C. Chen thumbtack on our plotting board.
And I'm almost positive that the first person who introduced me to Misha was Curtis. So, like, I'm almost, I'm pretty sure that it was at a social gathering at a Seattle convention at a NorwestCon a few years ago, and I'm pretty sure Curtis was like, "This is Misha." So, like, Curtis came up when we talked to Wendy. Curtis came up when we've talked to a lot of these people, and so it should not be a big surprise that we are getting Curtis on. The only surprise is that the logistics made it so that it was later in the season. But that one is going to be coming out on the 18th of August. So that one is, we're now a month away from now. But we recorded that episode with Curtis, and we'll probably talk about it more when we get to the discussion. Far enough in advance that I have more gray hair, for sure, since we had that.
I do think we're going to need to re-listen to the episode in order to have
for sure.
the plotting episode.
Yeah, there's no way that we will remember all of the stuff that we talked about. But I am excited to finally get that episode out and share that with people, and talk about how awesome Curtis is, and who's also just shockingly defensively humble. Like, was the only thing that I remember from that episode. He's like, "There's this myth that I was helpful, and I was not. I just want to be clear about that." No, you were great, Curtis.
Correct.
So.
Curtis is great, and I'm going to keep saying it until he accepts it into his heart.
And I will say that after Curtis, you and I are both going to be at WorldCon.
Correct.
It'll happen almost exactly after the Curtis discussion episode will come out, and then we will be at WorldCon. So at WorldCon in Anaheim, California, you can talk to us about conversation in person about our conversation with any of our prior guests, but maybe specifically you can talk to us about Curtis. But anyway, I cut you off. You were going to say something else.
Well, I was going to highlight, I just started a little side project.
Oh, yeah.
That just came out.
And we have to make sure to talk about that.
So I have been added to a friend of mine. He has a YouTube channel called Sirius Black, or Sirius Slack with Sirius Black.
Yep.
And he added a segment called Sil Selects Stories. So he gives me a couple minutes every week, and I'm going to be on talking about what I'm geeked out about lately and recommending people check it out. I may also end up joining some of his other mini shows. Like, there's some music reaction videos. That is much less structured, but I'm so grateful that he invited me on and is giving Eric and I a shout out on this platform he has on YouTube. And also, he's just an amazing guy and friend local to us in Portland.
And a special, like, tip of the hat to Sirius. Sirius was our first guest, like, when we, as a test guest, which I'm sure we will talk about.
Episode 0.
Yeah, like, but maybe even episode -1, because the name of the pod was different, the equipment needed to be upgraded, like, but Sirius was there for us to do, like, an early shakeout run, which nobody has seen, but maybe it will come to the light of day eventually. If I can
need to be behind the Patreon wall.
Yeah, but either, if you're particularly interested in seeing what we looked like before we figured the show out, I mean, it was very much the same thing. Like, I think what happened when we talked to Sirius is we figured out what
the
worked.
the core is still there.
Yeah. But, like, little things, like, I think our introduction changed and, various other little tweaks and changes. But that's another part of our origin story. I realize, because Sil and I were talking about this before this episode started, that I am a really bad self-promoter. And most of that is because I'm just don't think about it. But Sil mentioning the guest appearances with Sirius makes me realize that I should talk about this more. As I've mentioned, my debut novel is coming out next year. It's coming out in next March. I think I'm comfortable saying that much. In the lead up to that, there are two things that I want to tell our listeners about. The first is I revamped my personal website. So if you're the kind of person that likes to go to websites, I guess, you can go to erikgrove.com. That's just, ERIK. Don't go to Erik with a C grove.com. I don't know what you're going to find there. It's probably bad. But erikgrove.com. I've got all links to all my stories that I've had published in various places. All of the various news about the book, it's posted there. A lot of content on that website. There are recordings of readings that I've done. There are recordings of interviews that I've done. I was on local television last year, and I don't know if I've mentioned that enough, but I was on a local morning show talking about an anthology that I edited. All of that up on my website, erikgrove.com. Also from that website, you can find a link to sign up for my newsletter. And my newsletter is also Erik Grove, but it's erikgrove.beehiiv, beehiiv.com, which is maybe confusing. We can put that in the show notes. You can also just find the link up on my personal website. But you can sign up for my newsletter. And the reason that I'm encouraging people to do that is because I have a cover for my book and a really cool animation that goes with it. And I'm going to share that, but I'm going to share that on my newsletter first. So if you sign up for my personal newsletter, the first edition of the newsletter that you will receive is my cover reveal for my book, which should be going on pre-order soon, which is why I'm kind of doing all of this. So a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about now, like in a month, put a pin in it. I'll talk about it more and should have more details. I believe in a month I will know the date that the book is going to go on pre-order sale, and there will be more information that I can provide. But also, if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll find out there. So that is
You guys, I'm going to totally flex. I got to see the little cover animation, and it's so cute. It's so good. I can't wait till you see it.
Cylia is in my advance for many things. So yeah, I'm glad to have I got the Cylia seal of approval on the cover and the animation. So that's fantastic. But yeah, sign up for my newsletter. Find the link to it on my website. I do a lot of other stuff. I don't talk about it on the pod. You'll also see that on my website. I'm a man about town, so to speak. I don't know why I said that out loud.
That was a thing you just said. It's true.
All right.
What I'll say is you've brought up being incredibly busy and potentially a workaholic. You left it there though. You did not talk about all of the other things. Right. So what I'll plug for you is the fact that you're about to run the Willamette Writers Week of shenanigans. And so if people are in the Portland metro area and would like to sign up.
Gosh. And again, like Cylia and my boss, everybody wants me to be like my boss at Willamette Writers. So my day job is working for Willamette Writers, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on education and professional opportunities for writers, amongst many other things.
Relevant to the pod, but I don't talk about it much because I forget. I'm just doing too many things. But the annual Willamette Writers Conference is coming up at the end of July. I think it's the 31st of July is the first date, running through that first weekend of August. And I will be present for that, helping to organize and put that together. What I will also specifically throw out is that if you are,
not sure that you want to commit to an entire weekend of going to a conference, either for the time or the cost or the whatever. Two things. One, there is an online conference track, which I've worked very hard to kind of keep a thing and provide the links. I'm running I do a lot of the website maintenance for that. And some of that content will be recorded, so you don't always have to do it all like in one spot. The other thing to think about is that there is a free writers fair, which is open to the public, that happens on that Friday, which I think is Friday the 31st, or double check my date, but Friday that weekend, and that is open to the public, and there will be tables full of writing organizations and reading organizations. There's a list, it's over a dozen groups that are going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be running around. So if you are in the Portland metro area and you're just like, hey, I'd like to check something out, it's going to be downtown-ish. It's at the Crown Plaza right across the river from downtown on the east side of Portland. Free. You can come on in. You can talk to people. I know in the past there have been people like giving out candy. So there's candy. There will be a table for the HWA, the Horror Writers Association. Celia, I know that they will be eager to talk to you and continue the outreach.
As I walk in, they're going to start chanting "One of Us."
But yeah, no. So I should plug that. Because. Again, I think that my job would probably like me to do that. And my efforts...
I think just to tie it all together, I think at one of the Willamette Writers conferences, I met Curtis there at the Writers Fair and bought one of his books.
Yep.
Like hand bought it from him.
Yeah.
It was great.
And that is these organizations and all of these things that I do. And again, I sound like a I don't know, just an exhausted man about town. I'm just gonna keep. I'm gonna make that a thing.
Specifically, the town of Portland.
Okay. I don't think we need to specify it, but I may just sound like I'm just tired all the time because of various calamities. But the truth is that I'm tired all the time because I'm having the best time talking to writers and engaging in writing communities. Like, I'm not actually tired when I'm doing that. I'm just tired when I record podcasts about it. No, that's not true either. But no. But come out, like, the community is vibrant, it's lively, it's great. I believe in it, it's strong. There's more stuff that I should be plugging. I will leave that for the future.
I will do my best to shoehorn it in, Eric.
Yeah.
I got you.
The Eric actually talk about yourself minute of the pod.
What are you doing lately, Eric?
Well,
That'll just be the segment.
I am also doing this, yeah. So still with the hand gesture callbacks. Until next time, everybody, keep reading. You've been listening to Connect the Plots with Cylia Erik. Thanks. Please connect with us on social media. We're Connect the Plots Pod on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. You can also support us and gain access to exclusive content on our Patreon. That's at patreon.com/Connect the Plots Pod, all spelled out. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.